Hi everyone, thank you for joining in. This is Nivedan Rathi from Coffee and Startups. This is a place where we talk about all the cool things that are happening in the startup ecosystem. I'm someone who's super curious and inspired by all the founders that we have in the ecosystem now. And this podcast is my way of bringing out the best stories, lessons, insights from them and bring it out, share it with all of you so that the aspirational entrepreneurs within you, amongst you, they also find a lot of value from it and take some inspiration from it. So today on our first episode, we've got Pardeep Garg. He's the founder of Uravu Labs. It's a very interesting company. It's a very interesting product that they've built, and it's something from what I understand. It's a thing that makes water, potable water out of thin air, and they call it something, I guess you call it 100% renewable water. And I find that an immensely powerful idea, and that's why we brought in Pradeep today to talk to us about this company, the product, and also about his own life. So here we are. Hi Pradeep, thank you so much for coming in. I really appreciate you making time today this morning.
Thanks, Nivedan, for having me on your podcast. I'm really honored to be on your podcast.
Great, great. Thank you, Pradeep. So, Pradeep, I would like to start off by asking a little bit about you. Where do you come from? What is your background? What were you doing before this? Please help us understand that.
Sure. So, Nivedan, I have to go a little back in time in the sense that, so I'll have to, start with all the founders of the company. So Swapnil and Venkatesh actually started this, in about 2016, and they are graduates of NIT Calicut. When they were studying at NIT Calicut, and in the year of 2015, particularly, the city of Calicut had faced severe water shortage problem, and that motivated Swapnil and Venkatesh to, come up with some solution to this problem. And after they graduated in 2016, they, started on some kind of solution to this problem. And the very solution, natural solution that they started working on was water from air, generating water from air. And in first 2 3 years, they developed something called conventional technology, because all they were also new to this idea, new to this concept. So but obvious was to start from whatever is already there in the market, and slowly build upon things. And they developed in first 2 3 years something called conventional technology in water from air landscape. So water from air is not a new idea, but it has been there for about 2 decades now. But the idea is very simple. We would all have seen in our lifetimes, on our air conditioners, water droplets start forming. Instead of letting those water droplets fall on the ground, somebody could be collecting those water droplets, and this is how the water from air is produced. But then, as we know that our air conditioners are super electricity hungry, so is this technology which generates water from air in a conventional way. So while water from air is good, but super heavy consumption of electricity to do so doesn't make it renewable anyway. So and that is because still today a 60-70% electricity is coming from fossil fuel based power plants. So this is when coincidentally in 2018, water abundance X prize also came into existence, and that motivated companies around the world, participants around the world, to come up with something called 100% renewable water. And that is when Swapnil and Venkatesh also started thinking to pivot the company around not only making water from air, but making this water from air 100% renewable also. And that is when Swapnil and Venkatesh contacted one of my professors at ISC, Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, and we got in touch with each other. And we, when I met them, I thought, like, this is a problem I should be working on given my background, academic background. So we officially started working together in the year of 2019, October 2019 to be very precise. And to talk about myself, I did my master's and PhD from Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, particularly in mechanical engineering, and specialized in new kind of energy systems. Most of my work has been related to coming up with new kind of energy systems, whether waste heat recovery system, new type of thermal power plants. And now I'm working on water problem. And water is also nothing but energy problem, because the latent heat of water is very high. When we boil the water, the energy required to boil the water is very high. So that is why we can consider the water problem actually to be energy problem. And it made all the sense to me when Swapnil and Venkatesh started discussing with me how to make 100% renewable water. And so three of us were there in the beginning, and then little later Balaji also joined us. Balaji is someone who can, convert ideas into reality, while I'm mostly a technology person and trying to be a business person these days. But so mostly pen and paper type of person. But Balaji is someone who can convert ideas into reality, who can build products from blueprints. So he is really instrumental in, doing the prototype work, getting product manufactured, fabricated, and building the engineering team as well. So the four of us, me, Swapnil, Venkatesh, Balaji, are founders of the company today, and we all are dedicated to come up with, this 100% renewable water that we are building up in Bangalore at Uravu Labs.
Got it. Got it. Great. Thank you so much for the introduction of the team. I think you four of you are now have joined forces. How big is your team right now?
So right now the team is 40 plus members,
Wow.
and we all come from diverse backgrounds, like different backgrounds of engineering, mechanical engineering, electronics engineering, computer science engineering, and we also have we are also building up now business team. We are about 10 members in the business team now. So super enthusiastic team and very motivated team we have today.
Got it, got it. And so you're basically at 40 plus team size. Do you have any traction right now? Have you made any sales so far, or is it still in the prototype stage? Where are you at this point?
Sure. So, Nivedan, before I get into details, could I take 1 minute to explain what is 100% renewable water?
Absolutely. Actually, that would be a
So,
good idea to, I think the name 100% renewable water does sound very tempting in terms of, it sounds very compelling that, okay, we've got water and we've got it 100% renewable. But yeah, I think it's a term that you guys have coined. It's not something that is very well known amongst the larger audience. So please help us understand that.
sure, Nivedan. So, we all see today PV and wind type of technologies that help us go renewable in the electricity space. So, renewable electricity is something that all of us know today. And then also, we see electric vehicles coming up in the market, which help us go renewable in the mobility space. So, the point is that there are many products and services around us which are going renewable or sustainable in many ways around us today. But water surprisingly has been somehow left out. Nobody is talking about water being 100% renewable in the market. There is nobody in the market who is selling something called 100% renewable water. That is where we came into picture. And water, why water? Because water is also an important consumption of human beings. We all use electricity. We all use water. We all use different things. But without water, life is nothing. And you come from Jaipur. I also come from that part of India, Rajasthan to be precise. So we all know the value of water very
Yep.
much. So this is why we started working on making water 100% renewable. And why do we call a water 100% renewable? Because there are two key elements. One is that water should be sourced from an inexhaustible source of water, and the second is that whatever energy goes in making that water from that inexhaustible source of water should also be renewable in nature. So let's look into the first part, which is making water from an inexhaustible source of water. So when we look at air, air has got huge amount of water vapor. Whatever water is there in our all rivers combined together, 6 times of that is there in our atmosphere.
Wow.
So a lot of water is there in our atmosphere in terms of magnitude. And the second good news there is that the natural cycle associated with water vapor in the atmosphere is also pretty fast. So within 8 to 9 days, all water molecules are destined to come back to Earth's surface, whether in form of rain, snow, or dew. So unlike groundwater, once depleted, it takes like hundreds of years for it to get replenished. Our atmospheric water doesn't work like that. Within 8 to 9 days, all molecules, keep recycling themselves. So one is that the magnitude is pretty much there, and the second is that the natural cycle associated with the water vapor is also pretty fast, pretty fast.
So
So
give me a
because of these
sense.
two reasons.
Give me a sense
Mhm.
in this. You said that there is 6 or 7 times as much water, right? You kind of held inside atmospheric air, right? Than all the rivers combined. Does that mean that India, in theory, could get all its potable water supply from air one day? That is theoretically possible, actually.
That is theoretically possible. So, we did some calculations. So I would say that in Indian state of Kerala, whatever area is there in the land area is there in the Indian state of Kerala, that much is enough to provide all the water needs of India. So generating water from air is possible, and in huge quantities also it is possible.
Great. Okay. Please go on, yeah.
That is, so for all practical purposes, we can consider air as an inexhaustible source of water. The second is that, as I mentioned in the beginning, there are a few companies which can make water from air, but they use heavy electricity to make water from air. For example, 1 kilowatt hour of electricity or 1 unit of electricity going in making 1 liter of water. That is, significant amount of electricity
Yeah.
that is going in making our water. So we wanted to change that. We wanted to use only renewable energy to make this water from air. That is when we combine these two parameters, only then we can call water from air as 100% renewable. When we use 100% renewable energy also to make it. So that is the
Got it.
difference between us and many other companies who are trying to generate water from air. So the question originally, Nivedan, from you was like, where are we today? So we just raised our first investment about 7 months back from a VC firm called Special Invest. Special Invest in there are not many investors in India who want to invest, let's say, in hardware related startups.
Yeah.
India is famous for software innovation. But Special Invest is a VC firm which invests heavily in the hardware-related startups, and they have got some of the cool companies today, which have raised Series A, Series B, or also so. And we are really happy to have them. And about 7 months back, we raised our first investment, and since then we have made significant progress in terms of team building. We are now 40 plus members from diverse backgrounds. And we have also built the product in the sense that we have built two successful 5 liter per day machines and 120 liter per day machines. And our first 5 LPD pilot is also up and on, fully running now on the ABN website. ABN Bev is world's largest beer maker. Budweiser, Corona, Stella, these kinds of brands are from them. And we know that beverage industry is a big consumer of water. So is the alcohol industry. And they wanted to come up with something called renewable water beer. ABN Bev recently actually came up with a beer product which said that they have used renewable electricity to make their beer. We can all imagine when we hold a beer mug that some kind of electricity would have gone in making that beer, but it's not really tangible. It's not really direct. It's not really something that excites us. So when we told ABN Bev that having a renewable water logo on a beer bottle will make way more sense than having a renewable electricity logo. They liked the idea and they gave us one order, and that's how our first order came into existence. And now we are happy to tell you that we just installed our first pilot 5 liter pilot on ABN Bev site also. So
Great.
company is mostly in early stage. Where the technology is demonstrated, traction is there. ABN Bev is our first pilot customer. There are many other beverage companies, with whom we are in conversation right now. I can't be naming them, but our top 10 members, top 10 beverage companies. We are in conversation with all of them, and we are actually getting very good traction, not only just in India but outside India also, Japan, the US, and the UK market as
Got
well.
it. So I understand. I think that's great progress already for such a young company. You started in 2019, and you already are in touch with so many of these big companies, and you're running pilots across the world. I think that's humongous progress already. What I want to understand is you said you have 5 liters per day model, and then there is another 20 liters per day. Now, when I hear 5 liters and 20 liters, sounds very small for a company that's making beverages, probably to the order of thousands of liters every day. So, what does that mean? What does your one machine look like? How much space does it occupy? Like in terms of really serving the needs of these companies at this point, and we'll probably talk about other kinds of users after this. But how does that really work? This sounds small.
Definitely, Nived. You're absolutely right. The capacity of the machines that we have today is very small compared to the needs of the beverage industry. So how do we go about, and why are they purchasing, 5 liter per day, 20 liter per day machines? So the idea for them also is that, first they want to test water
Fair.
in terms of like, the quality of the water and the consistency of the water. Will we be able to produce water on a daily basis? Will the TDS of the water be, in the range that is required by them, let's say 5 to 10 milligram per liter or so, and the pH of the water is good or not. So for these first few parameters they want to test, and only then they would go ahead and place bigger orders. And while we are also in our journey to scale up the technology from 5 liter per day to 20, and from 20 to 200, and from 200 to 2000 liter per day or so.
So you're talking
I
about you might be scaling up, like setting up bigger units for water with the same technology. Right now, it's a prototype level thing. I mean, it's a small
Yes.
version which is for testing whether or not that suffices all their criteria for what qualifies as water suitable for their particular beverage, right? So do you kind of
Precisely.
kind of see this same technology being implemented at much larger scale at within these units?
Definitely. So, Nivedan, I should, take you back a little back in time. So, there is a company called Zero Mass Water. So, how do I say that is there are, let's say, put together 200 companies in the water from air landscape. Out of these 200 companies, about 195 are making water from air using that air conditioning technology, which I explained earlier. We have seen air, water droplets forming an air conditioner, but that technology can't really be deemed as 100% renewable water technology. Out of 200, 4 to 5 companies are actually focused on something called desiccant technology, which we also incorporate in our company. So desiccant is nothing but we all have seen silica gel. Whenever we buy a new thermal flask kind of a product, we've seen a small pouch generally carrying beads of about 4 to 5 in size. This material is called silica gel. The property of this silica gel is that when ambient air is passed over this silica gel on, let's say 10 kgs of silica gel, 2 kgs or 2 liters of water will get picked up, or rather captured by the silica gel on its surface. And this is something called adsorption. And after adsorption, we have to regenerate the silica gel. To regenerate the silica gel, we heat up the silica gel to about 60, 70 degrees Celsius. When we heat up silica gel to 60, 70 degrees Celsius, whatever 2 kgs, 2 liters of water that was adsorbed earlier will now be dissolved in form of water vapor. And we, condense that 2 kgs, 2 liters of water, and we form good water, fresh water. So 10 kgs of silica gel can help us produce about 8 kgs to 10 kgs liters of water on a per day basis. So ratio is about 1:1. So if we want to produce 1 liter of water every day, we need to be having about 1 kg of silica gel on a daily basis. And this silica gel has got huge life. Its lifetime is about 10 years and more than 10 years. So we don't need to replace silica gel every year or so. So there is only one more company other than us, out of these 5 companies working on the desiccant technology, which can say that, which could say that their water is also 100% renewable. Their name is quite famous today. It's called Zero Mass Water. They also changed their name recently. It's called Source Global. This company has raised funding from Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, Breakthrough Ventures, BlackRock, the big VC firm. Put together, the company has raised more than $100 million. And they are also doing the desiccant technology, and they are the only company which can make 100% renewable water. But their cost of water is very, very high, about 23, 24 rupees on a per liter basis. Why is their cost high? Because they have a very small machine which is 5 liter per day. We are also starting with 5 liter per day, but our goal is to go towards bigger capacity machines. They are limited to 5 liters per day. Why is that they are limited to 5 liters per day? Because there are 2 key elements in this technology, desiccant technology. One is the desiccant unit itself, where the silica gel is going to be residing. The second is the heat unit. In case of zero mass water technology, both are physically attached to each other. Now, what happens is, to produce 5 liters of water, we need about 3 meters square of solar area, and 3 meters square is like not that small area after all, about 30 feet
Yep.
square. A small kitchen or small bathroom, we could say, area type of a thing. So this technology, if they want to, let's say, go towards 10 liter per day or so, what they would have to do is they would have to make the bigger panel. They would have to go towards 6 meter square panel to generate 10 liters per day. But then 6 meter square panel will make their technology non-transportable. Logistical issues will be there, and staircases will be there. Staircases will stop us, put that machine on our rooftop. So these issues, limit themselves in many ways to keep their machine size limited to 5 liters per day. And that is where we come into picture. When we entered the space, we realized that this is one of the limitations, that both the components are physically attached with respect to each other. And this is where we come into picture. What we have done is we have detached the two. The solid desiccant, the liquid, there are many kinds of desiccant, so we could be using solid desiccant or liquid desiccant. The desiccant unit is going to be physically separated from the heat unit. When we physically separate the two, what happens is no matter the size, what the size of the machine is going to be, whether 5 liter per day or 50 liter per day or 50,000 liter per day, we are going to have a single desiccant unit, a single desiccant core, a single valve system, a single electronic system. So you can imagine that, whether the machine is 5 liter per day or 50,000 liter per day, the cost associated with electronics and valves and other things is going to be more or less same on absolute basis. But when we scale up towards 50,000 liter per day or so, fractionally the cost of electronics, the valve system, the
So
pumping,
in
and many
short,
other
you're
things.
letting the economies of scale work in your favor.
Yes,
What you're saying is we are able to produce much more without increasing the cost associated much more. So that cost gets distributed not just on 5 liters, but 50,000 liters, and that becomes insignificant. That's the principle on which all factories and
precisely.
manufacturing units work. That they have one capital cost and they try to maximize production so that is kind of spread over so many units. I think if that is core to your technology, that makes it much more scalable, and that's what you're counting on then, right? Does that also
Very
mean that
precisely, Nivedan.
you do you have solar panels that are associated with your unit to generate that electricity?
Uh-huh. So definitely. So we have like, these solar panels. We actually work with heat systems. As I mentioned, these desiccant materials need heat, not
Right.
electricity. So we can also be using, solar water heaters. We all have seen solar water heaters also on our rooftops, which help us generate hot water directly at about 60, 70 degrees Celsius. So we could be using those solar water heaters directly, and they are actually way more economical than solar PV systems.
Got it.
So we could be using that
So
system.
does
But
that mean there is a
uh-huh.
one-to-one relationship between the surface area of the solar water heater or panel and the amount that you can produce water?
Definitely. So, from sun, we get about 5 units of radiation on a per meter square basis. So using these 5 units of radiation, counting all losses, heat losses here and there, and, unavoidable heat losses. So we can generate about 3 liters of water on a per meter square basis. But this is Nivedan with when I say that when we use solar heat as an energy input. But I mentioned that we have decoupled the two,
Right.
the desiccant unit and the heat unit. Now that the heat unit is separate and the desiccant unit is separate, we could be attaching a desiccant unit with other kinds of heat systems as well. For example, let's say biomass, or there are many other kinds of renewable heat sources, waste heat. There is a lot of waste heat in the industry, particularly chemical industry.
Okay,
Refineries
so
are a
you
big
don't
example.
need electricity necessarily, you need heat. And you
We
can,
need heat.
without needing to convert heat to electricity and electricity to heat back again, you can have kind of generate higher efficiencies by having these waste heat coming in as a source for heating your desiccant.
And these systems are going to be way more compact as well. Like, we don't need to use big land area to produce water from air. So these become like industrial units. And when these
Hmm.
industrial units come into picture, the scalability comes into picture. It's like, if I could give very layman example, chota lays ka packet versus bada lays ka packet. It boils down to that eventually. So now that, these systems are going to be industrial scale systems with the help of biomass or waste heat or renewable electricity also, because renewable, what has happened is in past few years renewable electricity has got picked up, and we are getting now renewable electricity on a service basis. So average industry clients we are talking to, they tell us that they have started getting renewable electricity on a service model. So they use electricity also directly to power our machine with the help of heat pump or other efficient ways of converting electricity into heat. And the cost of water at these scales, we are talking about 10,000 liters per day, 50,000 liters per day, 2 lakh liters of water per day is going to be about 2 rupees per liter or so. And while
Wow.
the only competitor of ours is Zero Mass Water, the source global from the US, they are standing about 23, 24 rupees or so because of economies of scale and heat agnostic nature, if I could say, that we are able to bring in our technology. The cost of water is going to be significantly down, and it's the
Got
system
it.
that we are going to build eventually is also going to be very, very compact.
So, if I understand correctly, just to sum it up, what we've discussed so far, with your technology, you can generate 100% renewable water, basically water which can be produced inexhaustibly. You can have infinite amount of water keep kept on generating with renewable sources of energy, or rather renewable sources of heat in this case, and you can produce that at industrial scale, which is your key focus, right? I understand from all the discussion so far that you are right now very focused on setting up bigger units for industrial scale requirements, and that is great because also that means much higher volumes for your business, and that makes it a much bigger scale than trying to reach, let's say, or trying to compete with a market which is a home based individual market, right? You've reduced the cost of that water by up to 10 times compared to your closest alternative, if I understand correctly, right?
Yes.
You're talking about generating water at 2 rupees a liter while someone else is producing it at 24. So that makes it a huge difference, especially for industries. It sounds like a no-brainer if it's actually done on the ground. Those your pilots will reveal that very soon in terms of exactly how do they perceive and what exact benefit do they receive out of it. So I understand that your focus is industrial. What about the households? Let's say I live in a far off area where I don't necessarily have access to potable water 24/7. Would you also be looking at us as potential customers then?
So definitely, Nivedan. So we what we're doing is we are right now in the process of developing our technology. If I could say that R of R&D is complete, D of development has started at our end.
Yeah.
So we're going to make two categories of solutions. One is at what we call is low volume product, and one is at the high volume product. So low volume product within 200 liters per day or so, and the high volume products beyond 2000 liters per day or so. So within low volume product, we see that in typical Indian household requirement is about 20 liters per day. A family of four, we all have seen we buy 20-liter jars, also Bisleri ones, 80 rupee, 90 rupee ones, and we see that 20 liter per day is enough of a water quantity, drinking water quantity that is
Exactly.
required by a typical household. So our first model is going to be 20 liter per day for household applications. The cost of water here is going to be about 5 to 6 rupees on a per liter basis, which is not very less, which is not very high also, in the sense that there are few customers who buy Bisleri bottles of 20 liter, which comes around 90 rupees to 100 rupees. So again, they're already paying 4 or 5 rupees on a per liter basis, and our water is going to be 100% renewable in all senses. So this could be one potential market for us, the rooftop market. And we have got one order from Mittal Builders. Mittal Builders is coming up with a 100 villa project in Bangalore. Each villa is like 4 or 5 crore rupees, and each villa is like 4 or 5 crore rupees. A fancy water machine of 2 lakh rupees doesn't really sound expensive in many ways. So the 20 liter per day small low volume products are bound to be little expensive on a per liter basis, but we see that the premium real estate market could be our first target in this sector. And then there are corporates, Fortune 500 companies and unicorns of the world. They all have got this deep desire that they want to get to 100% renewable
Right.
tag very soon. They all want to go 100% eco-friendly sometime soon. So for example, Microsoft came up with a deadline that they want to become 100% eco-friendly by 2030 or so. So our pitch to them is that without taking care of water, nobody can be claiming that they are 100% eco-friendly. And we at Uravu could be helping them, supply the missing piece of puzzle, which is renewable water, and help them go eco-friendly in a totalistic manner. So in the low volume category, we could be having two types of customers: these builders, premium builders to begin with, total
Hmm.
environment kind of companies, Arup, Capital Land, these kind of companies. And then the second customers within this category, low volume category, could be these corporates, Microsofts of the world, Googles of the world, these companies which have deep
Got it.
desire to go 100% renewable.
And what would be the kind of estimated price for a unit which generates 20 liters per day? Let's say I want to put up one. First is what will it cost me? Second, will it be as simple? I live in a apartment, so I don't have a rooftop of my own, which means can I put it up, install it right in my balcony, just like I set up my air conditioner units? Is that how simple is it going to be?
So, Nivedan, this is an interesting question. And so, as I mentioned, our system is going to be heat agnostic or energy agnostic. So if the system is going to be electricity run, then you could be putting the system very much in the balcony, just like your air conditioner. It's going to be looking like it is going to be looking like just an air conditioner or so. So,
Mhm.
and it would occupy that much of a volume. So, but if it is going to be solar, then definitely we need require rooftop, and all solar technologies without any exception are always area intensive. And Uravu also can be an exception to that rule in all possible ways. So, but our energy agnostic systems are going to be very much compact, and the cost of 20 liter per day system would be around, if it is not solar, then it would be around 1 lakh rupee per liter, or 1 lakh liter for 20 LPD system. And if it is with solar, then it is going to be about 2 lakh rupees. And the monetized cost of water, if I could tell you the cost of water on a per liter basis, that would be about 4 to 5 rupees on a per liter basis with the 20 LPD
So,
unit.
so you're saying that 4 to 5 rupees on a, it's like the running cost?
Running, not the running cost, including the capex and opex of the machine. If we
Got
monetize
it.
the capex over 10 years or over the
Okay.
lifetime of the product.
And
Mhm.
otherwise, well, let's say if I take out the capex part of it, do I incur any ongoing costs every day, every liter also? Apart from that, what is the OPEX here?
Uh-huh. So the OPEX in case of solar, because solar energy is going to be driving the processes. So the OPEX is going to be very minimal. It's going to be about 2,000 rupees on a per year basis or so, just to replace some kind of filters. We also provide
Understood.
mineralization cartridge.
So
So the
more on the
maintenance and
side of
OPEX is not going to be much.
maintenance than actually running, like the way my air conditioner requires units of electricity and I pay per hour, right? Kind of that. It
Yes.
doesn't happen that way for you. It's almost like capex and only maintenance cost then.
Yes. Yes.
Got it, got it.
And then the high volume products, we are targeting the beverage market. The beverage market, consumes a lot of water. If I could give you a number, about 1,500 billion liters of water every year. And if I could, put this number into perspective, then I would say that whatever water is consumed by human beings for their drinking requirements, 20% of that is floating around us in form of these beverage products, whether plain water bottles or cold drinks, soft drinks, juices, or alcoholic products like beer and hard liquor. So a lot of water is there around us in form of these beverage products, and most of this water has actually been coming from the groundwater. Just speaking from Jaipur, in Jaipur, a big brand, a big soft drink brand has got its facility where they extract water from the ground, Kalakheda, and about 20 lakh liters of water is extracted every year, and agitations keep happening against these big brands. And these brands, while they are extracting huge amount of water from the ground, there is also the question of reputation for them. There is this brand value associated with their beverage products. So what
Got it.
targeting to do is we're trying to help these beverage companies move away from the traditional sources of extracting water to come up with these renewable sources of water. And then when they sell our water in the market in form of beverage products, let's say a typical 1 liter bottle comes in like 20 rupees. We all buy 1 liter bottles at about 20 rupees. Aquafina, Kinley, Bisleri, and if all these brands shift to new type of water system, which is what we're trying to build at RM, the scalable one, the industrial level one, so that the new 1 liter bottle will cost about 22 rupees on a per liter basis. Not everybody will buy. We understand that India is a price sensitive economy, but then 2 rupees change. The premium that we are asking to the end customers in the name of renewability is just 10% or so. We think that at least 2 to 5% customers will be ready to pay that kind of premium on their beverage products.
Understood. So essentially, the impact on the climate of all these industries extracting water from ground, that is humongous. We see this in Rajasthan all the time. There are many places which have gone dry, and people need to keep digging deeper and deeper, and it does not get replenished by rains anymore. The rate at which we are extracting water. So I think the biggest impact which can be seen would be on groundwater restoration if enough industries do kind of adopt this technology.
Definitely.
Are there other, apart from the groundwater falling down, what other costs are there on climate, on our life, on people's livelihoods, on our lives, that not having renewable water has today? Apart from groundwater going down, and of course you don't having access to good water, what other costs would be there?
Sure. Other costs would be transportation costs. What happens today is that these facilities where beverage companies make their products, beverage products. These are very much centralized facilities today. So, let's say our cold drinks are made in one place, and then 500 kilometers they will be moved to another place, point from location A to location B. Then, there are significant transportation costs and then carbon emissions associated with the transportation logistics. So now that air is going to be everywhere, so we could be producing water anywhere and everywhere in many, many senses. So the facilities, the beverage facilities need not be that centralized now as they are today, about 20 lakh liters per day, 30 lakh liters per day. Now they can be like, 2, 3 lakh liters per day, and they could be they could be meeting the requirements of a district or, 2, 3 districts nearby. So the logistics and transportation could be a big
Understood.
saving here.
So I see typically there are two kinds of, or rather three kinds of drivers that are there for industries to consider. One was in terms of demand. How much do people want something, and what is the demand for a product? And at the same time, what in terms of demand, how sensitive is the consumer base to the climate or the impact that our industry has on climate? So as you said, many corporates, big companies want to move to this because it's a value that they stand for, that they stand for protecting the climate, and that is going to be a big driver for the adoption of a technology like yours, right? Then there is this cost, which you're saying is going to be reduced significantly to almost a tenth of the alternatives available at an industrial scale, right? And then you've got, you can say, how should I put it? Yeah, you can call it government policy. Is there any government policy support that your company would be benefiting from? Is there any mandate on industries to do XYZ changes in their methods of producing their products, beverages, whatever so far? Do you have any solid policy support that has been come out recently?
This is a really interesting question, Nivedan. And we all, all new technologies, particularly in the energy space, renewable space, they all need some kind of support in the beginning. Because, when PV came into existence, electricity prices were not this low when the PV had just started. In its beginning years. It's after only 20 years, 30 years or so when the cost parity has come against the coal and other kind of sources. So definitely we need some kind of support. And the good news is that, government is also trying to help and support new kind of renewable technologies. Recently, Prime Minister Modi, when he was, being in an interview with CEO of the Vesta Energy, so there Prime Minister Modi was trying to, provide this idea to CEO of the Vestas Energy, which was that, let's make water from air using wind energy only. Basically, what he was trying to say that let's make water from air using renewable energy only. So and after Prime Minister Modi spoke about 1.5 years back, Prime Minister office picked up this topic and they made a task force. And Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, Ministry of Water, they all came together, and we recently contacted them and they visited us. And we see that they seem to be suggesting us that government has already supported PV technology and wind technology. They have also started supporting it in a big way. The government is thinking that what could be the next renewable technology which needs their support, and definitely renewable water is something that they think that could be the next technology they should be supporting.
Yeah, when we're moving so much towards solar and wind, why leave water behind? I think that's a very valid extrapolation to make at this point. Um,
Yes.
Great, got it. So I think we've covered a lot of things when in terms of what is the problem that we're addressing, how does the technology work, then what have you accomplished so far in terms of your traction, your pilots that have been going on, and the plans ahead. You told me the plans are to start making it on an industrial scale. How soon do you see that you'll be probably ready for a mass scale? Would How much time would that require for you to be ready with the first industrial order, do you think? You said you're on the D part of
So,
R&D. Yeah.
yes. So we are continuously going to be scaling up. Right now we are at 5 LPD and 20 LPD. In about 2 quarters from now we will be at 100 and 200 liters per day, and in 1 year from there we will be at 2000 liters per day. So 2000 liter per day will be the last technical milestone of the company, in the sense
Mm-hmm.
that beyond 2000 liter per day the cost of water doesn't really come down even if we keep increasing the capacity of the machine.
Hmm.
So after a point we will be duplicating 2000 liters per day machines to generate amount of water. So zero mass water stopped at 5 liters per day. We are going to stop at 2000 liters per day in many, many ways. And there we are going to reach in about 1.5 years from today. And we see that in 1.5 years, 2 years, beverage products, few companies turning out to making renewable water as a key ingredient in their beverage products.
Got it, got it. Cool. So that marks the end of our first big section where we wanted to explore a little bit about your team, about your business. This is a section where I want to bring out some of your learnings that you've had so far in your journey, whether with this startup or before this. I want our audience to kind of see what is it, that you can share with them that could be of help to them. So I request you to be super candid with some of these questions. So let's start with a little bit on the business side. One of the questions that I had was, what about your domain? I think we fair to call it water, or rather renewable water, as your domain. Do most people not know, but they should know probably because it affects them? What do you think is that?
So one thing that we wish them to know is that not all water from air is renewable, and actually conventional technology producing water from air in using air conditioned technology could be actually way more polluting the environment than the groundwater actually. So we want them to know that water from air is of different type. There are many types of water from air, and it's not enough to make water from air. But what needs to be done is making water 100% renewable, which Uravu can do in a scalable manner, and that will reduce the cost also significantly.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Then, are there any sectors or trends that you are betting big time for the next decade? We're talking about 20 until 2030. Is there anything that you think is significantly going to change over these years and you want to bet on that trend or a sector?
Beverage sector, the beverage sector, because in the beverage sector we see that all kinds of premium products are coming up. We see energy drinks coming up, sport drinks coming up.
Yeah.
We see Himalayan, Vedika, the premium water category booming up in India. So one Himalayan water is like 100 rupees per liter or so. Our water is going to be renewable, and it's going to be 25 rupees, 22 rupees on a per liter basis. And this way it could become mass opportunity also for us. So we see that beverage sector is
Interesting.
already trying to go renewable, but the way that they were trying to go renewable was they didn't really know, if I could use that word, how to make beverage products renewable. For example, many companies are there in the world today in the beverage sector which are trying to go away from plastic, because plastic is again not renewable in nature, and it stays in our environment for hundreds of years, and they're trying to move away from plastic by shifting towards glass or paper-based bottles. Many companies are coming up which are doing that. But when a customer buys 1 liter of water bottle, plastic is hardly 20-30 grams. It's good that people have started caring about 20-30 grams of plastic, but time has come when we start caring about 100 grams of water, 100 mLs of water in 1 liter bottle. So that is where Uravu could come into picture, and Uravu could go really bold in
Wow.
making these beverage products go renewable in a bigger way, in a
Yeah, I think
world
it's a
awareness.
big paradigm shift suddenly, because I've never imagined the water inside that plastic that also comes with an environmental cost. It has a footprint, and that is a new thing for all of us to learn for sure. So that's great. So let's. The next thing that want to know is, there are some things which seem very obvious, but surprisingly don't work out very well. Is there anything that you've had something of that sort so far?
This is a hard question, Nivedan. Um, so I would say that things which seem obvious once upon a time and turned out to be hard ones. To be honest, this is my third startup. Uravu is my third startup, and I had two startups before Uravu. Both were in energy domain, and we were trying to come up with a better energy system, better type of thermal power plants, PV power plants. And the thing I would say that things which seemed obvious was the idea, but while going through the process, I learned that idea is not everything. While I knew that idea is not everything, of course all of us know that, but personal experience, I guess, there are always thousands of variables which have to be right for an equation to
Yeah.
be fully solved. In our case, for a startup to be successful. So all these thousand variables have to come together, thousand missing pieces of puzzle have to come together, and companies have to be pivoted at different times, at right times in different directions. There is always this zigzag that is there. So the while idea is important, implementation, keeping our eyes
Yeah.
open, our ears wide open is also equally important. And continuously, while strategy is good, one more thing that I learned in the process was, while strategy is good, making long term strategies is good, but what is more important is coming up with correct logistical steps on a daily basis. So every day is a firefight, and we have to be doing things today, in a right way, so that tomorrow can be a better day. So
No, that's
yes.
very useful. I think as you've highlighted a very fair point. Many first-time founders, they overemphasize on the idea and kind of tend to slightly overlook a lot of the less sexy parts of doing the business, and they kind of get missed out until it's too late. So yes, that's true. We've got the exact opposite of this. What seemed very
Mhm.
odd, but and probably unlikely, but surprisingly turned out to be, kind of that it turned out to be very well. It worked out really well. What do you think has happened with you?
Mhm, mhm, mhm. Okay. So I would say that, what turned out really well but seemed odd once upon a time was building team. So about 6 months back, as I mentioned, we raised our investment, and we were just four members at the time, four founders, and we have just, build our team, 40 plus members now, and the team is highly motivated, enthusiastic. They all work as, like, shareholders, and that is something, seemed very difficult, because in hardware, people told me that in hardware space, finding talent in India, particularly in
Yeah.
India, is hard. International investors had this sense. But I would tend to, contradict now, that my experience tells me that building team was not that difficult as I thought, and the team is highly motivated. At times, during troubleshooting days, nobody looks at the watch, and everybody is there on the ground to solve the problem, whether that is technical problem, or business problem, or operational problem, or some or the other sort. So building team was something that seemed odd, but in the hardware space particularly, but turned out to be
Right.
really well, actually.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Especially, I think the doubts that are expressed by investors is very common for all hardware startups to face. And if we've got a solid team from the ground up, I think that'll pay off immensely in the long term. Uh,
Yes.
Now, then there is another question, which is, what one thing do you wish you knew earlier but didn't?
Hmm. Okay. So I guess this is going to be a little controversial one, in the sense that, I used to rely a lot upon people around me once upon a time. Um, so whether parents, friends, professors, mentors, advisors, investors, anybody, nothing particularly against anybody. But what I realized over the time, that almost everybody is shooting in dark. If they are shooting in dark, better I shoot those arrows, actually. So taking full charge of my own destiny was something that I learned very recently, and I wish I knew this earlier.
Very valid. Fair. Got it. With this, I'm going to kick off our last section of this podcast. It'll be more like a rapid fire. We won't go into the depth of what happened and what not. It'll be A or B questions. What do you think is harder, business or tech?
I would say business, because business involves human behavior, many other things. Yes.
Okay, okay. Given that you're running a tech startup, I think you calling it business is very interesting still. Then, what do you think is easier, raising funds or building a great culture?
Having done both, I guess both are easy, but um, building teams is easier. Building a culture is easier,
Okay.
at least
Um,
as per my experience. Mhm.
right. Is there a person or even a startup that you admire a lot?
US professor. I admire him a lot, Dr. Matthew Esseros.
Okay. Is he the one, has he got some indirect contributions to what you're building today?
Not in this one, but he had great influence in my life. The kind of support, moral support I have
Wow.
got from him was immense.
Wonderful. What's the best part of starting up?
hmm Because everything is dark around you, so you don't know where to throw your stones. So you have to throw multiple stones. That's the best part,
That's the
and
best part of
you
it.
never know which. You don't know what is going to work out. So I guess that experience is good.
So you enjoy the uncertainty that comes with starting up, not knowing exactly where you're headed. That gives you a kick.
Yes,
Okay, interesting.
definitely. Like it's going to be always zigzag, and zigzags are always good.
Okay. Then what would you call is the worst part of starting up?
Part of starting up. hmm I guess you're without moral support, without enthusiasm, without good him HR support. So you have to be self-motivated in the beginning. So that is something that is good, but not many people may be that much self-motivated in the beginning. So I guess moral support, if it is good around us, then that is better.
Okay, I see. Yes. So that makes sense. That makes sense. I think, especially in the early days, you need a lot of it. You need a lot of faith and a lot of moral support for sure, whether it be from your team, your friends, your family. I think to have that is a privilege, and not everyone might get that equally. So great. That ends our rapid fire section as well. With this, I think I'd like to wrap up. Is there anything that you have that you want to share with us? Anything that you want to send out as a message? And then we can wind up our today's podcast.
Nothing in particular, Nivedan. We have touched all the aspects. Thank you for having me on the podcast today. It was really, really great conversing with you on this show.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Pradeep. It was great for me to host you as well. I'm glad that you shared so much detail about your company, all the technology that you've built. It sounds really, really promising. And I think if it's the day it's executed well, I'll be rooting for it. You've got
hmm
if the day I see that logo 100% renewable water on some of my beverages, whether it be on my Bisleri or packaged water or my beer, the day that happens, I think I'll be very glad. I'll cheer to you guys with the same very same
Definitely.
bottle.
We
So
look forward to that day together.
absolutely, I think we should absolutely do that. It'll be fun to kind of cheer our own, look at that logo and proudly cheer with that.
Yes.
And we'll
Yes.
probably replay this podcast and watch it again that day, saying that we decided we'll
Definitely.
cheer. So that thanks a lot for coming up. I think with this we're going to wind up, and thank you all who have been watching this. I wish the Uravu team all the best for the ventures ahead.
Thanks, Nivedan. Thanks for having us today.
That's Nivedan from Coffee and Startups, and I'll see you again in the next one. Thank you so much, guys.